Right now, while you are watching this video, the world is changing. Not slowly, not gradually, not in the comfortable, predictable way that previous generations experienced change. Right now, this second, this moment, industries that employed millions of people 5 years ago are disappearing. Skills that took decades to master are becoming obsolete overnight. The rules that your parents taught you, work hard, stay loyal, keep your head down, those rules were written for a world that no longer exists, and most people do not know it yet. Most people are still playing by the old rules, still following the old map, still preparing for a future that has already been replaced by a different one. There is one man who understood this earlier than almost anyone alive. A man who looked at the world not as it was, but as it was about to become. A man who was laughed at, doubted, dragged before governments and called dangerous, and who kept building anyway. His name is Mark Zuckerberg, and what his life teaches us is not just about technology. It is not just about social media. It is about the single most important skill a human being can possess in the 21st century, the ability to adapt. Picture a 19-year-old sitting in a Harvard dormitory room in the winter of 2003. Outside, Cambridge, Massachusetts is cold and gray. Most students on that campus are doing what students do, attending lectures, socializing, building the conventional foundations of a conventional future. They are following the path, the safe, proven, prestigious path that Harvard represents. But this particular 19-year-old is not following any path. He is building one. He is not especially popular. He is not the kind of person who commands a room with charisma or charm. He is quiet, intensely focused, socially awkward in ways that will later be documented in films and congressional hearings and 1,000 magazine profiles. He wears the same gray t-shirt seemingly every day, not because he cannot afford otherwise, but because he has decided that the decision of what to wear is a waste of cognitive energy he needs for more important things. This young man is thinking about connection, about how human beings relate to each other, about what the internet has not yet done, about the vast, unexplored territory between what technology can do and what it has not yet imagined doing. And in that cold dormitory room, he begins to build something that within 10 years would connect 2 billion human beings, something that would rewrite the rules of communication, commerce, politics, culture, and human identity itself. He is not building it because he has a perfect plan. He does not. He is not building it because he knows exactly where it will go. He does not. He is building it because he sees something shifting in the fabric of the world, and he cannot look away. That young man is Mark Zuckerberg. And the thing he understood, the thing that made him different and was not genius alone, it was a willingness to adapt faster. Then the world could change, but let us not romanticize this story too quickly, because the journey of Mark Zuckerberg is not a clean, triumphant march from dormitory room to global empire. It is messy. It is painful. It is filled with the kind of darkness that the highlight reel never shows you. In the early days, there were people who claimed he stole the idea. The Winklevoss twins, a wealthy, athletic, establishment Harvard man, took him to court. They said the concept was theirs. The legal battles were brutal and public and humiliating in ways that would have broken most people. There were investors who said Facebook was a fad, that it would burn bright and disappear like a dozen other social platforms before it. There were advisors who told him to sell. Early on, incredibly early on, when the platform was still young and fragile, companies came with offers, large offers, life-changing offers, and he said no. He kept saying no. Not because he was arrogant, though some called him that, but because he could see something they could not see. And then came the harder battles, the ones that were not about lawsuits or money or competition. In 2016, something happened that shook Facebook to its core. The platform, the thing he had built to connect people, was being used to divide them. Misinformation spread like wildfire. Foreign actors used the platform to interfere in democratic elections. The same technology, designed to bring human beings together, was being weaponized to tear them apart. And the world turned on Mark Zuckerberg. Congress called him in. Senators, some of whom barely understood how the internet worked, sat in judgment of him on national television. The headlines were savage. The critics were loud. There were calls to break up the company entirely. There were people who said he was dangerous, that he was reckless, that he had built something that was destroying the very social fabric of humanity. Can you imagine that weight? Can you feel what it means to have built something with the intention of connecting humanity, and then to watch it become a weapon in the hands of forces you did not anticipate and could not fully control? This is not a small thing. This is not a business setback. This is a man sitting at the center of a global storm, being told that the thing he gave his entire life to build was a mistake. Most people would have collapsed. Most people would have retreated. Most people would have protected themselves, hired lawyers, issued statements, and waited for the storm to pass. Mark Zuckerberg did something different. He adapted. The year is 2018. The congressional hearings are over. The damage has been done. The public trust has been fractured. The company is bruised in ways that money alone cannot heal, and Zuckerberg stands at a crossroads. He could have looked backward. He could have spent his energy defending what was, protecting the version of Facebook that had already been built, fighting to preserve the empire as it existed. Instead, he looked forward. He began to ask a different question. Not, how do we protect what we have built, but what does the world need next? What is changing? What is coming that nobody is ready for? And how do we get there first? He looked at a world where the smartphone was already changing how humans experience reality. He looked at the emerging possibilities of virtual reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence. He looked at where the next 10 years were pointing, and he made a decision that stunned the business world. He announced that Facebook, the company, would no longer be called Facebook. It would be called Meta. And the vision he laid out was not incremental. It was not conservative. It was not playing it safe. It was a full transformation, a complete reinvention of what the company was, what it stood for and where it was going. The world laughed, again. Tech journalists wrote obituaries for the company. Investors were nervous. The rebrand was called a distraction, a vanity project, a desperate attempt to escape bad press. But Zuckerberg had seen this before. He had heard this laughter before. He had read these headlines before, and he kept building. Because that is what adaptation truly looks like. It does not look confident and polished in the moment. It looks uncertain and controversial and open to attack. Real adaptation requires a willingness to look foolish in the present in order to be right about the future, and this is the turning point. Not just for Mark Zuckerberg. For you, because everything we have just walked through, every failure, every reinvention, every moment of doubt and defiance, it all points to a set of truths that go far beyond one man and one company. These are truths about how to survive and thrive in a world that will not slow down for anyone. The first truth is this: the most dangerous place you can live is inside yesterday's success. When Facebook became the dominant social platform, the easiest thing in the world would have been to protect it, to optimize it, to squeeze every last drop of profit from what already worked. That is what most companies do. That is what most people do. We find something that works, a job, a skill, a relationship, a routine, and we defend it desperately, long after the world has moved on. Kodak invented the digital camera. They invented it, and then they buried it because it threatened their film business. They chose to protect the past instead of build the future. And the future came anyway, without them. The world does not owe you the right to keep doing what you have always done. Change is not optional. Change is the operating system of reality. The only question is whether you will change on your own, terms that or be changed by forces you refuse to see coming. The second truth is this: adaptation is not weakness. Adaptation is the highest form of intelligence. There is a lie we have been sold. The lie says that changing your mind is inconsistent, that pivoting means you were wrong, that reinventing yourself means you have failed. We have been taught to admire stubbornness and call it strength, but look at the natural world. The species that survived every mass extinction on this planet were not the strongest. They were not the largest. They were the ones most capable of changing in response to a changing environment. Darwin did not say the strongest survive. He said the most adaptable survive. When Zuckerberg pivoted from desktop to mobile, an enormous, difficult, painful transition, critics called it a stumble. In reality, it was one of the greatest acts of corporate intelligence in the history of technology. He saw the shift coming. He reorganized everything around it. And it saved the company. Your ability to let go of who you were in order to become who you need to be. That is not weakness. That is the rarest and most powerful form of courage. The third truth is this. The people who laugh at your vision today will cite it as inevitable tomorrow. When Zuckerberg announced the metaverse, the ridicule was immediate and overwhelming. The memes were brutal. The headlines were condescending. The business press treated it like the delusion of a man disconnected from reality. But consider this. When he announced Facebook would go mobile first, people doubted it. When Instagram was acquired for $1 billion, people called it insane. When WhatsApp was bought for $19 billion, people said he had lost his mind. History has a pattern. Visionaries are mocked. Then they are opposed. Then they are declared to have been obvious all along. The timeline of every transformative idea in human history follows this exact arc. And the people who understand this, the people who can hold their conviction through the mockery phase, those are the people who shape the future. You have an idea. You have a vision. You have a direction that feels true even when the people around you do not understand it yet. Hold. And the fourth truth is this. Crisis is not the end of the story. Crisis is where the real story begins. The data privacy scandals, the congressional hearings, the public fury that was the darkest chapter in Zuckerberg's career. And most outside observers assumed it was the beginning of the end, that the company was too damaged, too distrusted, too broken to recover. But look at what happened inside that darkness. Look at what was built in response to the pressure. Systems were redesigned. Policies were restructured. The entire architecture of how the platform handles data and privacy was rebuilt from the ground up. The crisis did not destroy the company. The crisis made it harder, sharper, and more resilient than it had ever been. Your crisis is doing the same thing to you right now. The job you lost, the relationship that ended, the failure that humiliated you. You cannot see it yet, but something is being built in you through that pressure, something that comfort could never have created. Crisis is not punishment. Crisis is construction. I want to speak to you directly now. Not about Mark Zuckerberg, about you. The world is changing faster than it has ever changed in human history. Artificial intelligence is rewriting entire industries. The skills that guaranteed stability a decade ago are being automated, replaced, made redundant at a speed that no previous generation has ever faced, and most people are responding to this the same way they respond to every disruption. They are hoping it will slow down. They are hoping things will go back to normal. They are protecting the version of themselves that was built for a world that is already disappearing. But you are watching this video, and that means something. That means part of you already knows. Part of you has already felt the ground shifting beneath your feet. Part of you is already asking the question that Zuckerberg asked in that cold dormitory room 2 decades ago. What is coming next? And am I ready for it? Here is what I need you to understand. With everything in me, with everything this story has been building toward, you are not too old to adapt. You are not too far behind to catch up. You are not too invested in who you have been to become who you need to be, but you have to choose it. Adaptation does not happen to you. You have to choose it actively, deliberately, with the full weight of your intention behind it. Mark Zuckerberg was 19 when he started. He was 33 when his empire was under existential threat. He was 37 when he bet everything on a vision the world was laughing at. He is still building. He is still adapting. He is still choosing to see the world as it is becoming rather than defending the world as it was. That spirit, that relentless forward orientation, that is not a personality trait you are born with. It is a choice you make every single day. And the cost of not making that choice? Look around you. The people who refuse to adapt to digital technology. The businesses that refuse to move online. The workers who refused to learn new skills because they had been doing things the same way for 20 years. The cost of staying still in a moving world is not safety. The cost of staying still is becoming invisible. So here is where we arrive. Here is the moment where this video either changes something in you or it does not. The world is not going to slow down. Not for you, not for me, not for anyone. The pace of change that feels overwhelming right now, it is the slowest it will ever be again for the rest of your life. 10 years from now, today will feel slow. That is the reality we are living inside. So the question is not whether the world will change. It will. The question is, and who will you be when it does? Will you be the person who protected yesterday so fiercely that you had nothing left to build tomorrow with? Or will you be the person who looked at the chaos and the uncertainty and the noise and chose to see it not as a threat but as an invitation? An invitation to reinvent, an invitation to rebuild, an invitation to become something the old version of you was not yet capable of being. Start today, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, because that feeling is never coming. Not when the conditions are perfect, because they never will be. Learn the thing you have been putting off. Take the course. Start the project. Make the call. Change the direction. Let go of the identity you have been clinging to because it once worked, and reach for the identity that the next chapter of your life is waiting for. Mark Zuckerberg did not build the future by understanding it perfectly. He built it by moving toward it fearlessly, failing openly, adapting constantly, and refusing, absolutely refusing, to let the world's pace of change outrun his willingness to keep up. You have that same capacity. Every human being is capable of adaptation. It is literally written into our biology. It is the reason our species is still here. Adaptation is not something reserved for technology geniuses in Silicon Valley. It is something coded into the very DNA of what it means to be human. You were built for this moment. Not in spite of how fast the world is changing, because of it. The world is changing faster than you think, and you are more capable of keeping pace with it than you have ever allowed yourself to believe. Adapt, grow, build, and refuse to be left behind, because the future does not wait, and neither should you.